Hungry Dads.
Welcome to Hungry Dads, your guided tour through the delicate and often overwhelming balancing act between food indulgences and social acceptance. And now, as always, here are your hosts, Rod Budget and Hugh Gallen.
Hello and welcome to episode 22 of Hungry Dads. I'm Rod Budget.
I'm Hugh Gallen.
And tonight we have got an Eater's Digest episode. If you're not familiar with our Eater's Digest work, refer back to episode 13 when Hugh did a good job of breaking down some recent topical news stories, which is what we'll do tonight. Basically anything food-related, snack-related. So I'll just jump right in with my first Eater's Digest submission. And Hugh, are you aware that two new KFC Double Down creations were released over the past couple of weeks?
I know of one. I know it's not in America. It's a hot dog Double Down.
I was trying to fool you and get you excited.
Yes, so I know it was a hot dog one. Australia, was it?
The hot dog with cheese sandwich between a specially shaped concave piece of fried chicken is only available in the Philippines.
Philippines, yes.
So you were kind of in the right part of the world. Another interesting fact about the KFC Double Down dog is they are limiting it to 50 dogs per store location per day.
Fascinating.
Which I think is kind of a great marketing ploy or tactic in creating even more demand for something that apparently already has a huge demand over there. So people are like rushing to their local KFCs every morning to snatch up one of the 50. Like I said, it's a hot dog with cheese on it, sandwiched between a concave piece of fried chicken. Do you think you would like the dog?
I do not think I would love it. I would absolutely try it. I mean, for new listeners, I do have a love-hate relationship with the Double Down. Listen to episode 2 for my full emotional journey with the American Double Down. So, of course, I'm curious. I actually don't think a hot dog is the right mix, but the thing I do like very much about it, and I admire, and it would get my attention, is the effort to make a concave piece of fried chicken. That kind of attention to the structure is very impressive and important to me. It would definitely get me over the hump from not interested to quite interested.
And another thing I did notice beyond the structure of the fried chicken itself was there was a cardboard holding apparatus. You mentioned in episode 2 that you had a lot of trouble with the original Double Down with the paper grease just burning your hands. So I think they did a good job. They've obviously learned from their American mistakes, if you will. And one thing that they did make clear was that they have no plans on bringing this to America, unfortunately. So I'm kind of in your boat. I would try it, but I honestly don't think that I would enjoy it. The second KFC Double Down introduction is the Fire Double Down Max with 2 X's. This is 2 pieces of spicy fried chicken, a spicy chili sauce, a tomato, and a slice of cheese. Care to take a guess which country this is introduced in, based on those ingredients?
It's spicy. I mean, Latin American country.
South Korea.
South Korea. Oh, yeah, they love their spice. Okay, very good.
Actually, it only said Korea, but I'm assuming that they don't have any locations in North Korea.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe they do.
We're not a political show. We won't assume.
So the Fire Double Down Max, unlike the KFC Double Down Dog, there's no limit on the number available. And again, no plans to bring it to the U.S. I think this one sounds a little bizarre. I think it's a little more tailored to the dining and food customs of South Korea or Korea. I don't think I'm interested. It sounds way too spicy. The tomato, it just comes out of nowhere. I guess it cuts down on the spice. But I'm not that interested. How about you, Hugh?
Yeah, I mean, they really seem like they're amping up the spice, and that's something that's been done. I mean, here as well. It's super spicy. It's hot. It's extreme. Those don't get my first attention because they tend to be more hot than my taste. If I was traveling abroad, I would try it, of course. Once again, mostly for the experience of this podcast. But no, it doesn't appeal to me. It sounds like they've got a gimmick on a gimmick. It's super spicy. It's a Double Down. They could have stuck with one, in my opinion. But good luck. I hope the Koreans enjoy it. One thing I notice is that there is a fair amount of press for these different international renditions of food from American chains, and I do always regret not having the opportunity to try them. The one thing I do realize, though, is there's a lot of these out there, and so I don't regret too much because there's such a large amount of these variations that Of course, unless I can become an international fast food taster, then it's I'm never going to have the opportunity.
Yeah, the other point I was going to make, kind of wrapping up the Double Down news, is as the self-proclaimed marketing skeptic I am, I think these are actually somewhat intended for United States marketing. They get a lot of buzz when they release these, kind of wacky things abroad, not just KFC, but any food place, and the American press picks up on it and gets quite a bit of press. And it's free press, and from a branding perspective, their name is in the news a lot. So I'm not saying it's the only consideration when releasing these kind of strange creations that are usually in Asia, but I think part of their consideration is, hey, we're going to get a lot of buzz in America.
Rod, for my Eater's Digest entry tonight, I wanted to start by first playing some sounds for you. I don't know if you'll recognize them right off the bat. Without any context, it might be a little bit tough. But let me just play the first sound for you. Any guesses of what that might be?
Neil Armstrong's first steps on the moon.
No, I can imagine without any context, it's tough to understand. Let me tell you exactly what that was.
Snap, crackle, pop, Rice Krispies.
Rice Krispies, snapping and crackling and popping.
Yes, that was the snap, crackle, and pop of Rice Krispies. Okay, I'm going to now give you the second sound.
It's definitely some crunching, and it sounds like a bird.
Interesting.
Yeah, were you eating a bird, a live bird?
Here's what that was.
Vlasic. That's the tastiest crunch I've ever heard.
Vlasic pickles?
Vlasic pickle, yes.
That's the tastiest crunch I've ever heard.
Yes, I forgot the stork was their spokesbird.
Yes, they had
a
a bird. And so that was the crunch of a Vlasic pickle. Third mystery sound.
Vacuum cleaner.
Well, the first two are food-related sounds, so thought you might come a little closer than that, Rod. Here is that
Maybe
third.
You spilled your food. I don't know.
Here's the third. Here's what the third sound was.
It's Turn Up the Sizzle at Chili's.
Welcome to Chili's.
Yes, that was Chili's sizzling fajita. And so the reason I played these three sounds was because they were food-related sounds, but not just food-related, but these are sounds that were used to promote and brand a particular food item. Snap, crackle, and pop has been long associated with Rice Krispies based on the sound. Vlasic, instead of talking about how their pickles tasted, they talked about how they sounded when they crunch. And fajitas from Chili's actually have a unique connection to their sound. And what got me on this search for food-related sounds was actually the Chili's fajita example that I heard about from a book. It's called The Sonic Boom, How Sound Transforms the Way We Think, Feel, and Buy. It's by two gentlemen named Joel Beckerman and Tyler Gray. And they were featured on another podcast, which I've actually mentioned before on this show. In our last Eater's Digest, it's a show called 99% Invisible, episode 148, called The Sizzle. And in the episode, they talk about all different kinds of sounds in advertising and branding and in things. But they started first talking about Chili's Sizzle, and they talked about the fajita effect. And what the authors of the book said was that Chili's doesn't sell the steak, they sell the sizzle. I haven't read the whole book, but I read some of the excerpts online, and I'm going to check it out. They talked about the fajita effect, which said that everybody hears the sound when they're eating at Chili's or when they sit down and they're ready to order at Chili's, and they hear the sound of that fajita. What the cooks in the kitchens know is that after that first fajita is ordered, there will be more. There's like a chain reaction. If the first one gets ordered at 5, they need to prepare not one fajita, but like 6 or 7, because they're going to keep coming. But if that first fajita isn't ordered till later in the night, then they don't even start prepping them until that first one is ordered, because there's a chain reaction that happens. And that's no accident. Chili's went out of their way to make their sizzling fajita loud and out in the open, of course, mixing with the smells and the experience, everyone turns their heads to see it. I don't know, just a little insight and an interesting thought into the connection between sound and brands, and particularly I wanted to pluck out from the examples in this book. The one example was the steak fajita. I think it's an interesting idea, and I couldn't really think of any others than the fajita, which was in the book, and then I thought of Rice Krispies and of the Vlasic pickle. It's not too commonly used, but I think it's actually quite interesting and effective.
Yeah, that is interesting. The only other one that I can think of isn't food related, but it's something you consume. It's Plop Plop Fizz Fizz from Alka-Seltzer. That is really interesting about fajitas. I've actually had this conversation before, I believe, with Mrs. Budget. I've noticed the fajitas coming out and everybody looking at them, and I've commented that it's a great idea that everybody can see them and smell them and it's a spectacle. And I wondered who was the first restaurant to kind of come up with that. And it sounds like it may very well have been Chili's. Next up on my Eater's Digest list is an article that was actually released today on theatlantic.com about the Food Babe. Hugh, are you familiar with the Food Babe?
No, I have no idea what the Food Babe is.
I wasn't either until today, and I read this article, and she is one of these food bloggers, specifically in the natural food world, organic, who's kind of exploded recently and has a huge following. And there was a feature about her on theatlantic.com today. The reason she's been in the news more now, and she's kind of becoming more and more well known, is that she petitioned General Mills and Kellogg's to drop the preservative BHT from all their cereals. It's banned in Europe and all other countries except the United States until now, based on basically the Food Babe and her new legions of followers that are growing by the numbers every day. And I'm not here to say that she's either right or wrong in her views, but the article was very interesting and I think is worth discussing. The article was primarily focusing on how she came to be. This isn't her background. She doesn't really have any scientific or dietary training, but she's just dedicated herself to investigating what's in your foods. She's actually getting a lot of backlash from the scientific community. One of the quotes from the article was, "Her work has drawn ardent criticism primarily from a vocal contingent of academic researchers and doctors who accuse her, in no uncertain terms, of fear-mongering and profiteering. They say she invokes science when it's convenient, but demonizes it when it's not." And one specific science writer, summarized it by saying that she exploits the scientific ignorance of her followers. And one even went as far to say is that she is to food what Jenny McCarthy is to vaccines. So this is a hot button topic. I thought it was interesting in that she did get these two giant food corporations to pull this. They commented and said that they were already in the process of doing it and it has nothing to do with her. But at the same time, she's getting a lot of backlash from science, and her response to that is that, well, these scientists are generally in bed with the food companies or lobbyists. And then the scientist's response to that is that the Food Babe is profiteering. She's making her own brand. She sells juicers on her website. She's called the Food Babe. If you look at her, she's dressed in high heels. She's kind of an attractive woman. She's trying to portray a certain image. So to me, the big takeaway of this whole thing is just how crazy social media is in this day and age and how powerful it is, that she's getting these large corporations to take notice. And there are other examples beyond the cereals. She's gotten Starbucks to explain what's in their pumpkin spice lattes that are so popular. Not surprisingly, she's very unhappy with the findings. She's going after these food manufacturers and food companies, and she's got a lot of people following her. But at the same time, does she know what she's talking about, or is she just kind of getting the masses to follow her? This one's a little more serious than we're used to talking about, but I found it very interesting. You have any thoughts, Hugh?
Yeah, I do, and I'll just first say all of my thoughts are based on everything you just told me. I have done no research. I have not heard of the Food Babe until now. But as you were talking, my first instinct was that comparison to Jenny McCarthy and the vaccinations. And by the time you finished that thought, I personally am of the opinion that it's not necessarily an apt comparison. And again, I have no research or information at this point. Maybe much like the Food Babe herself, it seems to me that what Jenny McCarthy was doing is arguably a larger risk to public health, where vaccinations are, at least in my opinion, frankly, an important social pact. Whereas if she's wrong and people are following her, I don't yet understand how maybe that is a negative impact on health or nutrition.
Right. I think if she's wrong, she's annoying these large corporations. Whereas if she's right, which she's very convinced that she is, she's doing a health service, which is kind of the opposite of the vaccination. So I think that's where it kind of doesn't make the connection.
Yeah. And if she's profiteering, again, not having any evidence at this point of her doing damage to people's health, then I would have to say that's fine. Now, if there's some information that what she's doing is in fact doing a detriment to people's health, that's different. If what she's doing is a detriment to the bottom line of these companies or making their PR people have to tap dance, well, I don't think that's necessarily anything wrong with that. I mean, it can be annoying and people can decide whether or not they appreciate her message, but I don't see it as a detriment to public health like some other things. So more power to her. If she's full of it, then other people don't need to pay attention.
Yeah, I think as much as it pains me to say it, I'm generally pro-food babe, but it pains me because I'm against the whole self-indulgent marketing, calling yourself the food babe. And hey, but in 2015, I think that's kind of the new American dream of making yourself known and getting out there and taking a stance, and good for her.
Watch yourself there, hungry dad. My next entry for tonight's Eater's Digest is a website. It's called taquitos.net. And what taquitos.net is, it's actually a website dedicated to reviewing chips. All different types of chips. Potato chips, corn puffs. And I will also add, they have a few sections where they review other snacks. They have over 6,000 reviews. And they have it broken down into different snack categories. They have international flavored chips. They have, local flavored chips. They have the weird flavors. They have the standard flavors. They have the news of the day regarding different chips. They are speaking about the new flavors coming out. They have a message board called Chip Talk. They have identified the worst chip, which is Benito's Flax chips. They've identified the best chip, which is Tim's Cascade style jalapeno. They have such an array of chips that I am frankly just jealous of the fantastic work they've done. And I say that actually as a compliment and a term of endearment. I found this website, I saw it, and I said, oh gosh, this is what I wish I had done. Yeah. We here at Hungry Dads have raised a lot of different issues, and we certainly do our reviews, and we're going to continue to do our reviews. But I will bow my head in respect and honor to the work that's been done at taquitos.net. The reviews are easy to read, they're insightful, they come off as very trustworthy, they're funny, they're interesting. It's just a useful, funny, unique, comprehensive website when it comes to potato chips. And I can't give them enough compliments for the work that they've done. I want everyone to definitely check out taquitos.net. You can find flavors you've never seen before. You can get some insight onto flavors you've enjoyed. If you've seen a flavor and you're curious about what it might be like, I think this is just a fantastic tool. The last thing I'll mention, and I won't give anything away, is check out the About Us section for their origin and also their job postings. There's currently a posting up for, I believe, a pretzel editor and a corn puff editor or something. Just really, really funny, smart, irreverent, but accurate and useful information about chips. I can't say it enough. Taquitos.net, taquitos.net, taquitos.net.
Wow, that sounds triple amazing. You know what this reminds me of, Hugh? It reminds me of the online and chip version of Carbonation Nation. The dream of Carbonation Nation, check out episode 6, Soda Psychology, was just to have every single soda in the world, whether it be locally sourced or some weird thing or Pepsi or Coke, all in one place where everybody could try them and review them. It sounds like they've taken that concept with chips and moved it online, which I think is a great idea and a great public service.
They've put in the work. I've got to say, you can just tell they've been at this for years. They've been building it up. They've been dedicated to this process. I am immensely impressed. And the other thing I will say is that it's up to date as of a week ago or so. Sometimes you come off a website like this and it's people who put it together years ago and then abandon it. No, taquitos.net, they're still on the case.
Hungry Dads. Visit our website at hungrydads.com. Follow us on Twitter at hungry_dads. This has been a Hungry Dads production.
I've been fumfering like a maniac. I think I do better when I lean back. Let me try leaning back.
I would try it, but I honestly don't think that I would enjoy it.
Fascinating.